Before we go any further, before this story unfolds into something deeper than you expect, I need you to do one thing. If you've ever felt lost between who you were and who you're becoming, if you've ever stood on the edge of a moment that could change everything, then make sure you like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and subscribe to the channel. Because what you're about to hear isn't just a story, it's a feeling, it's a turning point. It's the kind of moment that doesn't come twice. I can still remember the exact moment it happened, not in a blurry, distant way, but vividly, like it's frozen somewhere in time, waiting for me to return to it. My hand brushed against hers, so soft, so light, that anyone else would have missed it completely. It could have passed as nothing, just a coincidence, just an accident. But for me, it wasn't nothing. It was everything. Because in that tiny, almost invisible moment, my entire body reacted. My breath caught in my chest. My fingers hesitated, then lingered just a second longer than they should have. And when I looked up, Kate was already looking at me. Her eyes weren't surprised. They weren't confused. They were warm, soft, like she already understood something about me that I hadn't fully admitted to myself yet. And in that quiet exchange, in that space where no words were spoken, something inside me shifted, not loudly, not dramatically, but deeply. I wasn't supposed to be standing there like that, not like this, not feeling this. I had only come for dinner. That's what I told myself anyway. I stood there holding a bottle of wine, trying to look like someone who belonged, like someone who had it all figured out. But the truth? 5 months ago, I had left everything behind. My old town, my old life, the rules I had lived by for years, the version of myself that always knew what was right and what was not allowed. Back then, a moment like this, standing close to someone, noticing the warmth of their skin, feeling something unspoken, something real, I would have shut it down immediately, pushed it away, ignored it, pretended it didn't exist, because that's what I was taught to do. But now, I didn't move. I didn't step back. I didn't break the moment, and neither did she. Kate smiled, just slightly, but it was enough. Her fingers brushed against mine again. This time, it wasn't accidental. My heart started beating faster, but it wasn't fear. Not this time. It felt like anticipation, like standing at the edge of something unknown, something that could either change everything or reveal something I had been hiding from myself all along. "Come in," she said softly, and just like that, I crossed a line I didn't even realize I had been standing on. The moment I stepped inside, everything outside faded. The noise, the pressure, the expectations, gone. The room was warm, not just physically, but emotionally. Soft lighting filled the space, wrapping around everything like a quiet reassurance. It felt safe, in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. And then I noticed him, Daniel, leaning casually nearby, watching everything unfold, but not in a way that made me uncomfortable, not in a way that made me feel exposed. His presence was calm, grounded, like an anchor in the middle of something new. No one rushed me. No one questioned me. No one asked me to explain myself. It was like they already understood something I was still trying to process. I placed the wine down carefully. My hands, slightly unsteady, and when I turned back toward them, Kate stepped closer, closing the space between us effortlessly, like it was the most natural thing in the world. "You look nervous," she said gently, and I laughed, quietly, because there was no point pretending. "I am." She reached out, slowly, not overwhelming, not demanding, just present. Her fingers touched my arm, then moved down to my wrist, and the way she did it, it felt intentional, like she was giving me time to feel every second of it. "You're safe," she said. And those two words? They didn't just stay in the air. They settled inside me. Deep. Daniel stepped closer too. But he didn't interrupt. He didn't take control of the moment. He simply existed within it. Steady, quiet, present. And when his hand rested lightly against my back, I didn't pull away. I relaxed. That was the moment I realized something important. I wasn't being judged. I wasn't being pressured. I wasn't being pushed into anything. I was being welcomed. We stood there like that for a while. 3 people, 1 quiet room, connected by something that didn't need to be explained. My thoughts were loud, my heart even louder. But underneath all of it, there was something new, something calm, something steady. Kate's hand found mine again. This time, I didn't hesitate. I held on. She smiled. And there was something playful in it, something warm, something that made me smile back without thinking. Better? She asked. And I whispered, yeah. Because it was true. Everything after that felt effortless. Like the night had its own rhythm, and we were just moving with it. We sat close together, close enough that our shoulders touched, and every now and then, small things would happen. Her hand brushing mine, his fingers resting lightly against my arm, a shared glance, a quiet smile, and each time, it got easier. Easier to stay, easier to feel, easier to accept that maybe this wasn't something to be afraid of. At one point, Kate laughed. I don't even remember what it was about, but I remember the sound. It was real, open, unfiltered, and somehow it made me laugh too, even though I hadn't laughed like that in a long time. You don't have to overthink everything, she said, noticing me drift into my thoughts again. And I sighed. I've been doing that my whole life. Daniel's voice came in, calm and steady. Maybe tonight doesn't have to be like that. That word stayed with me. Different. Kate leaned closer, her shoulder pressing softly against mine. There was confidence in the way she moved, not force, not expectation, just presence. She wasn't asking me to change. She wasn't trying to shape me into something else. She was simply there. And somehow, that made everything easier. Without thinking, my hand moved, resting gently against hers. For a moment, doubt crept in. Was I crossing a line? Was I doing something wrong? But instead of pulling away, she turned her hand, intertwined her fingers with mine, and smiled. That smile said everything. No words needed. Behind me, Daniel's presence remained steady, grounding, when his hand rested on my shoulder again. I didn't tense up, I leaned into it just slightly. And that small moment, it meant more than I could explain, because for the first time in a long time, I felt supported, not controlled, not judged, just supported. Time changed that night. It didn't move the way it usually does. Minutes stretched, moments deepened. Everything felt fuller. We talked, we laughed. We sat in silence that didn't feel awkward. And in between all of that, something invisible kept growing. Something real. At one point, I admitted quietly, I don't really know what I'm doing. Kate looked at me gently. You don't have to. Daniel nodded. Just be here. Just be here. It sounded simple, but for me, it was everything. Because I had spent so much of my life trying to be the right person, following the right rules, hiding the parts of myself that didn't fit. And now, sitting there, holding her hand, feeling his presence behind me, I realized something. I didn't have to perform anymore. I didn't have to pretend. I could just exist. And that was enough. As the night went on, the space between us disappeared, not physically, but emotionally. We leaned into each other, naturally, without thinking. At one point, Kate rested her head lightly against mine, and I didn't move. I didn't question it. I didn't analyze it. I just closed my eyes and felt it. The softness, the trust, the connection. Daniel's hand remained at my back, a quiet reminder. I wasn't alone. I was supported. I was allowed to be here, exactly as I was. And for the first time, I believed it. There was no rush, no pressure, no expectations, just small moments, hands brushing, shoulders touching, eyes meeting. And somehow that made it everything. Later, we moved into the kitchen. Kate started preparing something simple, still smiling, still light. Daniel opened the wine I had brought, pouring it like it had always been part of the plan. And I sat there, watching them, feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time, belonging, not watching life from the outside, not standing at a distance, but being part of it. We talked for hours, about nothing, about everything. And through it all, that same warmth stayed, unbroken, unspoken, real, day-ending transformation. When it was time to leave, the night didn't feel heavy. It didn't feel complicated. It felt full. Kate walked me to the door, her hand squeezing mine gently. "You're always welcome here." Daniel nodded behind her. "Anytime." And as I stepped into the corridor, something felt different. Not the world, not the building. Me. I walked back slowly, replaying everything, the touch of her hand, the steadiness of his presence, the feeling of being seen, without judgment. When I reached my room, I paused by the window, looking out at the city lights. 5 months ago, I thought leaving was the hardest part, but I was wrong. The hardest part was learning to say yes to myself, to my feelings, to my truth, to the life I actually wanted. And tonight, I did that. Not perfectly, not fearlessly, but honestly. And that was enough. I smiled, a quiet certainty settling inside my chest. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid of what came next. If this story made you feel something, if you've ever stood at the edge of your own truth, then don't ignore it, because sometimes the smallest moments change everything. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe for more stories like this, because the next one might feel even closer to home. That night should have ended there, at the door, with a soft goodbye, with a quiet sense of something new beginning. But it didn't. Because the truth is, some nights don't leave you. They follow you. They stay in your thoughts, in your chest, in the way you breathe the next morning. I barely slept. Not because something was wrong, but because everything felt different. Every time I closed my eyes, I could feel it again. Kate's hand in mine, Daniel's quiet presence behind me, that feeling of not needing to pretend. Morning light slipped through the window soft and slow, and as I stood there, staring out at the same city I had looked at 100 times before, it didn't feel the same, because I wasn't the same. For months, I had been rebuilding myself, piece by piece, letting go of the person I used to be. But last night, that wasn't just another step, it was a door. And now the question was simple. Was I ready to walk through it? My phone buzzed. A simple sound, but it pulled me back instantly. It was Kate. Last night felt real. No pressure, just real. "Come over again tonight?" "Only if you want to." I stared at the message longer than I should have. Not because I didn't know what I felt, but because I did. And that scared me. Because saying yes meant stepping further into something unknown. Something I couldn't control. Something that didn't follow the old rules I used to live by. My fingers hovered over the screen. My mind started racing again. What does this mean? What if I'm misreading everything? What if I get hurt? But then, something inside me interrupted that noise. A quieter voice, a calmer one. The same feeling I had last night. You don't have to overthink everything. I exhaled slowly. And for once, I didn't argue with myself. I typed one word. Yes. That evening, I found myself standing in front of her door again. But this time, I wasn't the same person who had stood there the night before. There was still nervousness, still uncertainty, but there was also something else. Willingness. I knocked. The door opened almost instantly. Kate stood there, smiling the same way she had the night before. Warm, soft, real. You came, she said quietly, and I nodded. Yeah, I did. Daniel was inside again, calm as ever, like nothing needed to be explained, like everything was already understood, but this time, something was different, not in them, in me. There was no accidental touch this time, no hesitation disguised as coincidence. When Kate stepped closer, I didn't freeze. I stepped forward too. When her hand reached for mine, I didn't wait. I held it, fully. And that small difference, it changed everything. Because the first night, I had discovered something. But tonight, I was choosing it. We didn't rush into anything. We didn't pretend either. At some point, we sat down again, closer than before, more comfortable, and this time, I spoke first. I don't fully understand what this is, I admitted. Kate looked at me, her expression open. You don't have to label it, she said. Daniel nodded slightly. It's not about forcing meaning, it's about honesty. Honesty. That word hit differently, because for so long, I had been honest with everyone else, except myself. I paused, searching for the right words. I think I've spent most of my life ignoring what I feel. Kate's fingers tightened slightly around mine, not to hold me in place, but to reassure me. You're not doing that anymore, she said softly. And she was right. For the first time, I wasn't running. The room felt quieter than before, but not empty. Full. Every glance meant something. Every touch carried intention. At one point, I looked at both of them, really looked, and I realized something I hadn't allowed myself to say out loud. I feel safe with you. The words came out softer than I expected, but they were real. Kate's expression softened even more. Daniel's presence felt even steadier, and in that moment, everything aligned. Not perfectly, not clearly, but honestly. And that was enough. For so long, fear had been my default. Fear of being judged, fear of being wrong, fear of wanting something I wasn't supposed to want. But standing there, in that quiet room, with two people who weren't asking me to be anything other than myself, that fear started to lose its grip. Not all at once, but enough. Enough for me to breathe differently. Enough for me to exist without shrinking. That night didn't need a big moment. No dramatic ending. No defining event. Because the truth is, the change had already happened. Not in what we did, but in what I allowed. I allowed myself to feel, to stay, to not run. And that changed everything. When I left again, it wasn't with confusion. It was with clarity. Not about what this would become, but about who I was becoming. I wasn't the person who avoided truth anymore. I was the person who faced it, even when it was uncertain, even when it was new. I walked back home slowly. But this time, there was no hesitation in my steps, only quiet confidence. Because now I understood something deeper than before. This wasn't just about them, it was about me, about finally choosing my life instead of hiding from it. I reached my window again, the same view, the same city, but a completely different feeling. I smiled, not out of relief, not out of excitement, but out of certainty. This wasn't just the start of something with them, it was the beginning of something within me. And this time, I wasn't just stepping toward it, I was walking into it, without fear, without apology, without turning back. If you've ever felt this kind of shift inside you, don't ignore it. Because sometimes the life you're meant to live starts the moment you stop running from yourself. Like this video. Share it with someone who needs this story, and subscribe.